Okay, so up next, I'm going to be bringing up a C-suite perspective to join me on the stage. I'm going to have a distinguished panels of executives that are going to help engage in candid dialogue with me on how leadership decisions are shaping a stronger, more secure future for global payments. I'm excited for them to share with you how their organizations are operationalizing trust, exchanging intelligence, and navigating change, demonstrating what it takes to drive meaningful, lasting impact on security at the highest levels. My guests are Dean Crutchfield, the Chief Information and Security Officer at Toast. Dean has more than 3 decades in leadership in technology, where he has helped shape product development, hardware innovation, enterprise technology integration at organizations like Dell Technologies, Zebra Technologies, and CDK Global. Today at Toast, Dean leads security strategy across commercial solutions, corporate security, compliance, and operations, helping to safeguard one of the most recognizable names in restaurant technology. I will also, joining us is also Walid Barakat, the Senior Vice President of Governance, Risk, and Compliance at Global Payments. Walid brings over 20 years of experience across payments, from quality assurance to application delivery to enterprise risk and security. At Global Payments, Walid leads the worldwide compliance programs, driving collaboration to reduce risk and meet the evolving business demands. Walid has been an active member of our PCI Board of Advisors, and he's also a familiar voice at the community meetings. He has shared insights on building scalable and forward-looking PCI programs. Please help welcome our panel of leaders to the stage. Well, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm very excited and privileged to have this session with you both this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about internal and industry collaboration and the benefits of it in securing global payments. Before we get started, I did do a little bit of an introduction, but if you wouldn't mind, please share with us a little bit about yourself, your role, and the organization that you work for and represent today.
Sure, happy to. It's an honor to certainly be part of this panel and focus on collaboration. You mentioned global collaboration. It's in our names. It's in our organization's really vision here. So Global Payments, a provider of international acquiring, card issuing, and merchant services throughout the world. We have grown exponentially in the time that I've been with the organization through acquisitions, both large and small. We also provide innovative merchant solutions, most recently supporting large-scale arenas with their full cashless payment experience. We provide that to our local MLB, NBA, and NFL teams. We also partner with the local Dallas Cowboys. And so, what that means in my world as part of enterprise risk management is, frankly, significant complexity. As we grow, it represents significant change in our security and compliance programs. As much as we'd like things to remain as consistent and seamless as possible, business introduces disruptions, and our executive leaders expect us as leaders to enable the business by finding creative solutions. The only way to do that truly is through internal and external collaborations.
Great. Thank you. That's pretty tremendous. Hopefully you got to go to the Cowboys game on Sunday.
We were not. I watched it on the plane. It was quite entertaining to hear the oohs and ahs.
All right, thank you. Dean.
Yeah, thank you again, Gina, for having us, and good to see everybody here and have an opportunity to collaborate with everybody. I represent Toast. Toast is a restaurant industry provider. We provide payment services, but we also provide a lot more. We provide financial products to restaurants, so things like loans, checking accounts, and other things, so other financial instruments besides just payments. I've been there about 4.5 years now, and we've begun recently a global expansion. So we've been primarily in the United States, but we've started now to move out to Canada and to London and UK and other parts. Australia recently announced. We serve about 150,000 restaurant locations globally at this time.
Fantastic, amazing. I certainly, my first experiences with the Toast product, I think, was during COVID, and because I was often ordering, it became very familiar with your product, and always a big fan.
Well, now that your daughter is about to drive, you
Oh
can
my
send her.
goodness. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we often say that security is a shared responsibility, but making that real, right, we have to look both inwards and outwards. Inwards, we're holding ourselves accountable across all functions, whether it's technology, operations, product, customer service, and tone at the top with our leadership team. Outwards, we're building a chain of trust with our partners so that the security doesn't fall to just one team or one organization. Now, sometimes it feels that security and innovation are in tension with each other. But in the payment space, right, we have to get them both right. So let me start with a question. Walid, how are you collaborating with your internal business partners to balancing your company's business goals of potentially growth, innovation, and speed with security risk management?
Well, thankfully, the tone really is set from the top. As aggressive as we are in providing worldwide solutions at an innovative pace that that the market demands, there's also a clear expectation that we embed security in everything that we do, because we certainly understand the ramifications from a technical perspective. And now, as we grow significantly, the reputational impact that when things go wrong, they can significantly cascade and impact us from one area of the world to the other. And using that tone, enterprise risk management partners really closely within our 3 lines of defense. We're line 2. We partner very closely with technology. We support security and their policies and their standards and their adherence to maintaining that tone, and frankly reminding people the ramifications of, quote, small projects that have lasting implications when you are as integrated as we are. So reinforcing that tone from the top and partnering to really find solutions that meet the needs of risk mitigation while enabling the pace of change is really where we find our sweet spot. And so that independence within risk management, working to partner with not just security teams, but also legal and privacy and data governance in the way that we are constantly evolving and collecting information. We really have to pull perspectives from all of these various teams. And as large as we are, it really takes proactive engagement to pull that perspective and infuse it in feasible solutions to help the business go forward.
That's right. Dean, how are you experiencing that kind of internal collaboration on important company goals?
Yeah, I think trust unifies us, right? As an organization, as a community, trust unifies us. So without that trust, we will all suffer, right? And our organization understands that. Walid's organization, many of you I know understand this as well. And so that tone at the top is really important. We also run a 3-line of defense model, so that is a super important operating model for us, an operating system, if you will, for how roles and responsibilities cascade throughout the organization. We have a team that's kind of together with security and GRC at Toast at this time. So we combine and collaborate quite easily throughout our team. But we also use legal, we use other parts of the organization. And it is really important that everybody understands that trust is so important in what we do every day. If you look at the aggregate payment across the world that this organization, our organizations are responsible for, it's significant. It impacts global economies, right? So that trust is real, not just at a corporate level or an organization level, but at a global level for economies.
Fantastic, thank you. You mentioned something a few conversations ago that stuck with me. I thought it was really meaningful the way you talked about how when you're working with a product team and you've been able to really kind of inspire some creative product genius to also think about security as part of their role, And would you mind sharing with us a little bit about how you've enabled that at Toast?
Yeah, sure. So at Toast, we have small product teams. We have about 1,500 software engineers. So our product teams represent over 100 individual teams. And in each of those teams, we have put a security and compliance champion. And that's who we primarily focus on and collaborate with. It's not exclusively who we focus on, but we do focus on them quite a bit. And this allows us to spread out in the three-line of defense model our roles and responsibilities. And this is a really important construct for us. We are a quick innovator. We're a very agile organization. And our time to market and our differentiation matters. And so what we don't want is security and compliance to be the no team, N-O. We are the K-N-O-W team, but we don't want to be the N-O team. So it's really important that we get buy-in, we get that, that focus and that representation, that agency on those teams is so important that they don't look at the security, the compliance, the risk, and the governance organizations as being anything but a good partner. They understand it's important to establish trust as well. And through this mechanism, we've had a great deal of success in balancing the innovation with the requirements of security and compliance.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, Dean, you mentioned trust quite a bit there, and one of the things that I've found as a leader, often teams have competing objectives, as you mentioned, but in order to really establish that trust, it does take time, and frankly, understanding really what the mission and the objective is of the mutual parties, and so it sounds like you guys really have that embedded partnership there to establish that long-lasting trust and those relationships. To find those solutions.
It's a great point, Walid. I think relationships really matter. Gina, you hit it like, hey, let's network, let's establish relationships with people here in the community, inside the company as well. It's harder with remote work at times, right? It can be very difficult to establish relationships. We were talking, a number of us here, about that. It takes effort. You have to be intentional with it. And I think you have to try to create mechanisms where that is not unnatural, but it's just part of how we work.
That's right. There's a couple of thoughts there that I have in listening to both of you speak. One, right, you don't want to be the office of no, N-O, but sometimes you have to be the office of oh, hell no. And having that kind of partnership, right, where that's not your checkbox answer. It's because you understand what the business is trying to achieve, that you're part of the team. And so when there really is kind of that red button that you have to push, there's already a respect and an understanding that, holy cow, we may have to think about this differently. And you don't get that if you're just kind of on the peripheral of what the initiative might be, and you have a kind of a history of maybe saying, oh no, that's risky, or that's not secure enough, without fully understanding what you're trying to bring forward. That's great. Okay, I have another question for us today.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure,
your
please.
Point there, real quick. I do think, when something is hell no, right? We have to say it, right? But you have to, you have to have trust. You have to have trust with your executive team, because that's probably where you need to go with that conversation. And if you don't have that trust, if you haven't established that relationship that was just talked about, and you get to a hell no moment, it can be very difficult. But if you have that relationship, if you have that trust, if you have that understanding, and there's been a precedent of relationship and decisions and things that, education with executives that kind of is in front of that moment, it's really important. So I think hell no is occasionally used, right? But it really is helpful when you have the relationship and you have the trust of your internal partners.
That's right. You experienced that as well, Walid?
Certainly.
Those kinds of special moments?
There's special moments.
Yeah.
I think
Special moments.
I think what we're talking about really is that credibility,
That's right.
that has been established, and providing the context of why it is such a declarative statement. No, we cannot move forward with this. But it goes beyond the data, right? The data only gets you so far. Right. It takes that personal, relationship and experience to deliver that message and say, listen, I've seen us go down this path. I know what's about to happen. Here's
Right.
what I envision. Here's what the data tells us now, but the ramifications of what could occur are X.
That's right.
And it really takes persuasion and the delivery of that technology to really sway leaders to understand you're not just trying to stop the business,
right.
you're trying to protect the business.
In my experience, I have certainly found that it is really important to understand your business, the initiative or the project, but it's also very helpful, like you said, to have those relationships and be able to be that voice that can articulate, here's the why, right? Here's, I understand what we're trying to achieve, and here's how you might want to think about the risks and why it's a no, or what we might need to do to get to yes. And so certainly those relationships and that engagement to really understand and partner with the business, I think goes so far in trying to collaborate and really advance security for internal purposes.
Yeah, and ideally, if you're embedded, with security throughout the life cycle of these projects, you start to forecast those opportunities of what's about to come, and then you find, solutions, incremental steps that can be done, so that it doesn't amount to, that
That's right.
definitive no, we can't move forward.
That's right.
Or there's a risk treatment conversation, right? Or a risk acceptance conversation.
That's right.
That can happen as well,
Yeah.
right? And it may be for a period of time you risk accept while you remediate. Yeah.
That's great. Okay. So, at home in your day-to-day job and your organizations and across your experience in payments, have you seen this type of collaboration and shared responsibility actually help achieve your company goals of being innovative and growing faster and meeting a market demand? Have you seen this translate into real success?
Yeah, certainly. Similar to the model of having the embedded security teams there from the enterprise risk management side, we support a new product release governance. And what we've been able to do in partnership with security and operations, legal and privacy, is really try to establish a consistent method about assessing risk and providing validation for these solutions to go forward. Now, Dean, you brought up a great point. Sometimes it's not as easy as simply ensuring that these points are all embedded in all of these solutions, and there are risk mitigation solutions that need to be identified. And so the opportunity to drive consistency in a dialogue, here are the consistent expectations. In the event that you can't meet them, we've got a process in order to support you to move forward. Taking that message and delivering it at the inception of these ideas has really helped us plan more effectively, budget accordingly, and really ensure that our delivery model is aligned with our security model.
That's great.
And so that really does help enable the business, not just from the security perspective, but the collective overall delivery perspective.
That's great. That's great.
And I think the more you, to Walid's point, the more you can integrate your process work, like CI/CD pipelines, product development pipeline kind of work together with things like code scans and other elements of control systems, the more you can design that. This has been a really important breakthrough for us. We think about design now totally differently. I think about design totally different than I thought maybe 10 years ago. And really having that time to be intentional on the design of your systems, your design of your flow, so that it isn't such a friction point, right? Or you help identify friction points as you're working together with your partners, right? I think that's a really important call out that Walid made, right? This whole flow, right? Every company has different flows, different processes, and you can become friction in those processes if you're not careful. Design on those processes is really important to try to minimize the friction. Sometimes it's not easy to eliminate it completely, but to try to minimize it.
That's right. It's not an add-on. It's built into the process.
Right.
Kind of like guardrails that help you go faster on a racetrack.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and shift us now and talk a bit about some of the industry collaboration. So, of course, no organization operates in isolation, especially in payments. Our payments are global, we're interconnected, and very dependent on third parties. So payment security is not just the responsibility of one single payment player in this ecosystem. It's really more of a chain of trust. So without those shared responsibilities, right, our system is only as strong as our weakest link. So at an industry level, trust must be operationalized through shared responsibility, through frameworks where stakeholders are clear on the risks, obligations, controls, any kind of escalation requirements that are necessary. And so along those lines, what are your thoughts on how we're doing in the payment industry on creating those kinds of mechanisms or practices and frameworks that help you trust but also verify the security of your payment partners? Walid, did you want to hop in first?
Sure. We've got a significant footprint of service providers, payment partners, integrators, you name it. We are partnering with them.
Yes.
And through each one of our acquisitions, that volume can significantly uptick. Thankfully, we do have a great vendor management program. But I think the messaging that the council is really driven forward of the accountability and the ownership to understand how are you partnering with these different firms, these service providers. What services are they providing you? How are they providing you those services? What's the data exchange? To truly understand that it is our accountability to understand each one of those relationships, to be able to quantify what risk, what security measures, what are the lines of responsibility that we carry and that they carry. And then, frankly, taking it to those technology owners to say, get familiar with your contract and understand, are the liabilities covered? What are our rights to be able to go in and audit them? What additional validations or checkpoints that we may have throughout the year to ensure that the service that they're providing, as it may change and evolve over time, still fits within the lines of our risk mitigation measures. So the council messaging overall of, own that relationship and truly understand it. Don't just get it in a contract and file it away, I think is a really great tone that's really been set.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. Dean, what are your thoughts?
It's interesting. I think we're kind of sometimes more on the verify side.
Okay.
We are obviously in trust relationships as well with different partners, different providers. But we do feel the verify piece of this a little bit more, right? Being in the business we're in. And it's it's understanding terms and conditions, as Walid said, and really trying to make sure that if something is required, if something is an obligation, right, in that responsibility matrix, that we're fulfilling that, right? And I think that requires sometimes some different levels of understanding, right, with different contractual agreements and other matters. So I think the verify side can be very hard. The trust side has a strong foundation with the DSS standard, right, and requirements. So I think we're better on the trust side sometimes than we are on the verify side. But it's a constant vigilance, right, that we try to make sure that we understand our obligations and make sure that we're fulfilling our obligations as a company.
And that's very interesting perspectives from global payments, where your organization is very complex, whether it's a compliance accepting entity, you have your own obligations internally, also to regulators, but also hearing from what we would traditionally call a service provider of Toast, and just recognizing that the frameworks that we've created for our industry, you're both very familiar with, and seems to help kind of create a common language that we can communicate with.
Yeah. It does speed things up too, partnering with others, right? So having that common language does take us from, zero to contract terms and conditions a lot faster than it didn't exist.
I believe that it's like almost a Rosetta Stone when it comes to security, especially when you think about kind of the different global frameworks that exist and obligations that individual companies might have across the globe for different industries or regulators, to that matter.
Yeah, a common set of expectations going into those negotiations and those expectations, and using PCI as a baseline to say there is an outcome and a specific deliverable at the end of this.
Yeah, that's great. Good. Well, along those lines, so unique to the council, and some of the reasons why we actually have annual community meetings like today and across the globe is so that we can bring our community together. We obviously take these opportunities to learn from each other, to make connections, but to also enable collaboration. So my next question really kind of focuses a little bit on some more of that. How is your organization benefiting from collaborative conversations and collaboration with other industry partners, peers, or in some cases even competitors? Any thoughts? Anyone want to hop in there first?
I'll jump in. I think, we're all trying to solve different control system problems, and some of us have more heterogeneous environments, some of us have more homogeneous environments. And I think this is where the creative solutioning really comes into play. So we have examples of where we've been able to extend the life of things, in some cases, through our partners. And so, without that kind of constant dialogue, without that constant understanding of, who's offering what in the industry, and this is, again, on control system side a little bit more, that really has helped us to, obtain real ROI on projects where we would normally say that life cycle is going to be shorter, we can lengthen that life cycle, for instance. I think with, even with, the QSA process and the attestation process, right? That is a real value-adding process, right? For many reasons, not just always the data security standard reasons, but there's common control systems that we leverage in other ways, right? That those, kind of feedback in from the QSAs really help us to strengthen. So there's a lot of value add, I think, in the ecosystem on both sides. If you're on the buy side for buying solutions, or if you're on the side of the QSA and receiving feedback about your control systems.
Fascinating. Thank you. Walid.
The points that you were raising earlier about this forum, this group of experts out here being a great opportunity for that collaboration and that exchange of information is really what we've been capitalizing on for a number of years. As I mentioned, the acquisitions that we go through, it creates a significant increase in complexity and specific PCI deliverables. We currently manage over 60 different certifications, the majority being the highly complex DSS rocks.
Yeah.
As we integrate, as we acquire new businesses, it's an evolving story that changes throughout the year. And so the key collaborative piece that frankly has made us successful is a trusted partnership with our assessors. The new business deals are often surprises to us, just as much as they are to anyone else. And so, at the end of the day, we've got a number of commitments that we have to meet for PCI. We've got these trusted partners. We have to keep them aligned to that evolving story. What does the latest headline mean? What do we intend to do about it? Here's the program, here's our recommendations, here's our strategy. But having that trust to be able to go to our assessors and say, are there other perspectives that we should be considering? Are you familiar with this new line of business that perhaps we don't have experience with? How could we supplement what we're doing to ensure that when it comes time to meet that annual commitment, it's not a surprise for us nor them? And so this forum really creates that opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. And you said 60, 6-0.
60 and rapidly increasing.
I have a new appreciation for Walid.
Oh my goodness. Whew. Surprised you have hair, Walid.
There's a great team out there that really helps get it done, and so those are the guys that are actually making it happen.
Teamwork.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. All right. So we're going to look a little bit also, kind of a little bit of forward-looking. So, we talk a lot about advancing payments and innovation in payments, and certainly there's been a lot of evolution in risk management and cybersecurity programs, certainly also within, even just in the last 20 years, the maturity there. But in your view, what's the next frontier for advancing payment security in payments? And are there technologies or cyber risk management programs or frameworks that you're excited about?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I think, I'm a real practical individual, so those who work with me are in the audience. They can probably attest to that. I like to see ROI fairly quickly. I like to solve the problems pretty quickly. So one of the things that I am very excited about right now is the advancements in ML, machine learning, and threat hunting. I think we all are becoming more data-driven organizations using machine logs and other user behavior analytic type technologies. And I think in looking at threats and looking at circumstances and situations that are going on inside of our large complex ecosystems is becoming increasingly difficult. And then you have the manual process that follows that with alerts and everything else. So really trying to advance that with using some, experimentally at the moment, AI, agentic type technologies, as well as machine learning technologies is really kind of one of the things that's exciting us right now inside of our environment. As we continue to scale as a business and grow as a business, it's becoming increasingly difficult without these types of mechanisms to really combat and protect and maintain trust. So that is one thing that I'm really excited about. And I think for the people in the audience here, if you're not experimenting with AI technology, what do we go? 30 minutes without saying AI? Is that a new record? But if you're not experimenting with AI technology right now, you probably should. There's some really interesting things going on there too, especially if you think about building utilities, control system utilities. You can often do that now without having a deep coding background, right? So it's some really interesting things going on there too that I'm personally very excited about, and I know our team's very excited about.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned alerts, and that, from our perspective, when we're trying to have, productive conversations with information security, privacy, and legal, they're looking at data that's frankly overwhelming to them in a lot of cases. And so what I see as exciting is some of these new solutions that are able to aggregate that data and create a risk profile based on a number of different, specters that they're looking at. And this machine learning creates an opportunity to really understand the typical behavioral analytics, what's different about the circumstance that may have changed, that creates a focus area that really is worth investing the time, the resources, the finite budgets that we have to really drive more effective security programs. It can be significantly overwhelming for teams to just constantly try to field the volume of alerts, the different priorities that are there. But as these new tools are embedded in our organizations and we have time to actually tune them appropriately, it gives us an opportunity to empower our security individuals to really apply their time in the best use possible.
It's very exciting. And we're just on the fringes, right, of what's to come there for sure.
Yeah.
So along those lines, though, do you have advice for the council? How can we help best support these forward-looking technologies and advancements in payments?
I think the opportunity, so everyone's extremely familiar with the foundational tools that align with specific PCI requirements. I think the council's got a trusted voice to indicate how these new tools, how these new technologies can complement what are those foundational measures, and perhaps provide additional benefit to just meeting the specific PCI requirement. The credibility that the council has in the foundational security controls has been well established for years. So continuing to lend that voice to show how these new tools can truly partner and make us more effective, I think is a great measure that they can take.
Fantastic. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think also, a lot of what the council does with promoting education and learning and also giving advance notice on standards and evolution of standards is really helpful. I mean, most of us, we try to move as quickly as we can to meet new requirements, but it does take time.
That's right.
So having the advance understanding of that and having, things like the blogs, right, I think are very powerful, right? So recent blog on authentication and cryptography, very helpful. Set of principles that we can all align to, things that, have been learned, have been debated, have been shared as understanding. It really, I think the value of the council is we have more people looking at things and sharing their perspectives transparently. That helps us all get stronger.
That's great feedback. And something that certainly we've heard from our board of advisors too. And so just kind of the council's role, standards body, but sometimes, right, being able to shepherd in innovation and new technologies, new programs, is where the council probably can play a more active role in providing guidance. And to your point, this year we've been pretty prolific with some of the multi-factor authentication guidance, cryptography, but also you may have noticed that just last week we were able to publish some additional AI guidance.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And so we may not be the experts at the council. We're lucky to work with stakeholders and those in our industry that are really kind of in the trenches on bringing this type of technology and innovation forward. And so we're very fortunate because I think that helps us help the rest of the industry with just guardrails, right?
Yeah.
As you know, we don't want to stifle innovation, and so we might, in areas where we might not be ready for a standard, certainly guidance is one of those vehicles that we can look at how we continue to help be more prolific there and address where the industry might need those kinds of the beginning of a skeleton framework or guardrails. So thank you for that. And we'll continue to take that we'll take that away and make sure that remains a priority for us as well. Okay. So before we let you go, I thought it might be a great opportunity for you potentially to offer some advice or some of your thoughts on that the next generation of security leaders, many of you here in this room, might find helpful. Like, what are you thinking about? Any advice for the cybersecurity leaders of tomorrow? Any gaps that you might be seeing in the industry that you can maybe give them a little bit of a hint towards?
All right, I'll start. I think having a very strong technology experience is really helpful. So I'm a believer in rotation programs, and I think if I were younger in my career, I would be looking for opportunities at companies or companies that support development and development rotations. And one of the things, I'll tell a really fast story. I, at one time, had a opportunity in an IT organization to run a database and a database design team, and I thought I was being put out to pasture. I thought, oh, what did I do wrong, And so sometimes these development opportunities are presented to you, and you might think, wow, this is kind of unusual. But that actually propelled my career in so many ways that I can't even mention, given the time. So, find opportunities to rotate into different, positions, technical positions. Audit's another great place to go and learn. And I think, as you grow in your career and you decide whether you're going to follow a leadership track or you're going to follow more of a technical practitioner track, both are very valuable, of course. But if you follow the leadership track, you do have to develop executive presence. You do have to, develop influencing skills, good communication skills, and that should be another area of investment if that's not coming to you naturally through your role. Things like Toastmasters or other things that help. But you need those types of skills to be effective in the C-suite and to be able to share perspectives and gain trust and influence in the C-suite.
Oh, that's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really great. One of the things that we certainly try to foster is that opportunity to move within the organization. I've certainly benefited from it, sometimes in an unplanned way.
Yeah.
Similarly, you're given assignments that you have no idea that you actually wanted or that you actually stand to benefit from. So really, when I look at that question, it's really the focus on that leadership aspect. In order for leaders to become those trusted partners, they really do need the perspectives across the organization to understand really how are things operating and really what is the objective that we're trying to accomplish. There's a number of really great, passionate security individuals that have a great expertise in one particular area, but really in order for them to become more effective, they really do need that well-rounded view. In order to represent their case, in order to ultimately sometimes make that conversation that sometimes is difficult, but provide the different elements and perspectives where they're coming across with a true credible understanding of why this is such a risk that the business may not want to go down that path. And so taking the time to be invested in a number of different roles really affords them that opportunity to gain that tenure.
That's right.
And I think, Walid, you brought this up, another conversation is like understanding the business, right? I mean, the language of the business, typically is numbers, quantitative, very quantitative often. Sometimes that's not always right in our wheelhouse, right? Unless, depending on how you're representing risk and discussing risk at times, it can be kind of subjective or judgmental. So, understanding the business, being a good business person, because that is what people will look for, in senior leadership roles is, do you understand the business? Can you exercise good judgment with our business? Because I'm trusting Walid or I'm trusting Dean to exercise really good judgment, because I have to know if they're telling me something like a hell no or whatever it might be, is that going to come across with credibility? Is that going to stick, right? So if you don't know the business, if people don't respect that you know the business, that can be a real showstopper for people's careers.
Absolutely. I hear say yes to opportunity, and sometimes that might stretch you out of a comfort zone, and be someone that your organization wants to tap on the shoulder to work with. Even if you feel like it's not necessarily your expertise, be open to those opportunities, recognize opportunities might stretch you, and you'll grow from that, and be someone that your organization wants to tap to take on some of those squirrelier, maybe more ambiguous kind of opportunities. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
And don't look at those opportunities as limiting.
Right.
It's interesting because sometimes new opportunities might have a more limited scope, might have a limited staff. And sometimes you're like, what? That's not sounding like it's progressing my career. But in some ways, strange ways, you might be surprised at how it actually is progressing your career.
This is great advice. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today and having these very frank conversations with our community. It's very much appreciated. Today, we've seen how accountability, trust, and collaboration within our organizations and across the industry are key to advancing the security of global payments. So let's carry that spirit forward as we continue this conversation throughout our conference and beyond these conference doors. Thank you to Dean and to Walid. It's really been my pleasure and my privilege to have you here with me this morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you.